This is a podcast about men, but it's not only for men. I created also for women who wants to better understand the men in their life after they wonder and they are curious what's happening inside of men. I am Simona Herb. I'm couple therapist specialized in emotionally focused therapy. For more than 15 years, I have been sitting in the therapy room with people who try to get closer to each other, and at times they don't quite know how. One thing I often see is that men and women do not necessarily try to get closer from different reasons, but they speak so different about their emotion and conflicts. So this podcast is an invitation to curiosity. Curiosity about how men think about relationship, what helps them to move closer, and how we can learn together to make relationships a place that feels easier to live in. My guest today is Lieven Migerode. Lieven is a clinical psychologist who has been working with distressed couples for more than 40 years, and he lives and works in Belgium. He has spent then, as we said, maybe more than 4 decades listening to people's stories of love, conflict, and change. Since 2016, he's a trainer, a certified trainer in emotionally focused therapy. I know he founded EFT in Belgium. He has been teaching EFT in several countries: Belgium, Netherlands, Romania, Finland, Iran, and currently he says he is retired, or I don't know, semi-retired, but he will tell us more. He is described often as warm, as humorous, empathetic therapist. What I know as well about Lieven, who was my mentor, he has as well the roles of husband, father, and a grandfather.
Love Talks
La Masculin
cu Simona Herb, un podcast susținut de
Coseli, pentru momente în care contează să fim împreună.
Lara Farm. Sănătatea nu se câștigă, se păstrează. Intră pe larafarm.ro, farmacie online. Prețuiește-ți sănătatea.
Hello, Lieven, welcome. I'm happy that you accepted the invitation.
I'm happy to accept because your questions made me think a lot. What is sure is that we will hear something about what this man feels about relations and emotions and how we talk about it. But I am quite sure I cannot talk about what men do because I have kind of a medium to big objection to this way of thinking.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
You have been told me. Just let's start. I don't know if it's big or small, but I was wondering, from all those roles that I just said, a trainer, a therapist, a mentor, a father, a husband, a grandfather, what is your favorite role right now in this period of your life?
You missed one. My favorite role is being myself.
Being yourself. So that's the favorite role.
Which is and the self is a conglomerate of all these roles. Yeah, but the most important role now in my life is husband. That if I have to choose when the children are small, I think it might have been father.
Yeah.
But when you get older, and as you said, I'm married for 45 years, and the grandchildren are not babies anymore. Because then also grandfather is bigger. No.
Yeah.
No. So they're growing up, and so it's more the couple unit is the most important group I belong to. But the other groups are very, 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 very important. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So Lieven, we are emotionally focused therapists, both of us, so I need to start from attachment. And the research in attachment field says that the early years of the child and how it interacts with the mother especially will shape what psychologists call the internal working models of self and others. And those models would become, like a lens from which we interpret closeness, conflict, and love in our adult relationships, unless we had corrective emotional experiences. So, do you see any pattern in your practice that are repeating in men? Or maybe you said you don't like men and women, but maybe in the avoidant attachment strategy, regardless of their culture or personal story. Is it something that you say, oh yeah, I see it again and again?
Well, there's first you say that you ask me that if I agree with what your point is, and I want to disagree with two elements already. So I think the studies show that the first years have an influence in forming the model of how we react to the world in connection. But influence is not the same as making it. The rest of the life has also influences, and it's amazing that in longitudinal studies that after 25 years there is a correlation with the first years, but it's a very weak correlation. So your adolescence, your childhood, every period in your life, your first girlfriend, boyfriend, your marriage, everything continues to form it, and we have to think of it systemically. Yeah, so that it's not something static, but then you react from that, and then other people react to that, and that sustains the internal working model. So the internal working model is inside, but also outside. And then you said, especially the mother, and I would think that is one of the ways I am sensitive to gendered ways of looking. That I think it's not always fair to mothers to put all the most weight on them. I think the fathers are important too, and in nowadays society, fathers luckily take more role in raising children. But it puts all this strain on the mothers. This the first 1,000 days, and I see now young mothers stressing immediately about how to raise the child in the first 3 years. And then they also read the study, if I am stressed while the child is in my womb, my child will be anxious. And so you get a loop. So it's not fair for women that we put all the stress on them. Let's put it on both parents and on the parental relationship and on the wider environment, how they treat the child and they go with the child. So I think to be a soft feminist would also a good way to present who I am. Yeah, okay. And then we receive patterns.
Yeah, if you see patterns. Do you
see about ending up in the withdrawing position and the pursuing position in couples, so the one looking for more contact and the one closing off to avoid conflict, which we see often together in couples, because the one is the reason for the other. Yeah. So there's also systemic. It's not a personality trait; it's a systemic thing. And yes, we see. I see, and literature sees that there is more than.
Here is I see you.
Siri got awake. I don't know. I said, and Siri woke up.
I see. Yeah. You see, we're never alone, huh?
We're never alone. So I see more men in the withdrawn position than women, but like everything, that's why my objection is in the literature. Say I saw some numbers somewhere, and it's like 60 and 40%. So that still means that 40% of women are in the withdrawn position, and so that's my objection. If we look through men are, then we forget simple statistics that everything a human being does as a normal distribution in the so-called bell curve of Gauss. So if there is a difference in average, it does not mean that. So we cannot start from the gender, but if we look in patterns, we can see some pattern. And if there is one pattern that I personally see, but I don't know if it's the science around it, I don't know. For instance, I hear more of women who talk to other women about their sex life, and I almost never heard men talking about their sex life to other men.
Right.
Just
a moment. You're saying don't talk about sex life with other men, with their friends?
No. They brag about it and they invent stories, but not the real soft thing, not bodily things, not problems, not emotional stuff. And so that might be a difference that we also see in other areas in couples, because what pattern I also see that when couples come to me, there's often more the woman in heterosexual couples and says he doesn't want to talk about emotions. And the way the women talk about emotions is the same way of protecting themselves from emotions than the not talking about emotions from some men. So it's both distance. Talking about emotions is not living with emotions. And so it's a kind of distance. So women seem to have more longer words and longer vocalizations. But that's just an impression from literature. I only know that in average, women are more talented in language than men, but that also means that there's a lot of men who are more talented than their wife, because that's a Gauss curve, is statistics. So, but this point is, if I thought of a pattern that I see, it is that talking about intimacy with others, and I think men seldom do that. I see that not so often.
Yeah. So Lieven, just to summarize a bit, because you talked about very interesting things, and I think just summarizing them, not to forget them. So one is, and I like it very much, as a, maybe meeting new moms, more modern moms. You said in the beginning, let's take the pressure from the moms. It's not just the mothers that will influence how the child will see the world, right? And will see himself or herself. And that's great, because I know that the stress of, you have to be perfect to give everything, and limitation, but as well unconditional love, and it's kind of too much. And you're saying, no, now more and more fathers are a very important role of upbringing of the child, giving him even, attachment and emotions to the child. And that's nice. I hope that the women that looked at that, but as well the men, will have a relief. Like, we do this together. That's better.
Yes, wonderful. That would be so wonderful to because if we believe in attachment and we want to have a safe environment for the infant, that the parents help each other is the safest thing possible.
Yeah.
Because we know, Simona, that having little babies who don't sleep, and
Yes.
then 2 or 3 of them, and then you don't sleep for 3 or 4 years, that is not making your life always easy.
No.
If you have support, you can say, I'm in the point of breaking, take here. And you can exchange a child, and you can lose your temper now and then, and you can repair, and you can. Your partner said, "Yeah, it will be okay. I will take it."
Yeah.
It's. Let's do it together. That's
Let's do
so
it
the
together.
pressure of the mothers alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then about the patterns, when I asked about the pattern, you said something that is very interesting for me. And I will keep this lens of women and men because, especially in Romania, I hear a lot of women that says, "I don't understand the man. I don't know what is in his mind," right? And you talk about a pattern that says men talk less about sex. I mean, real talk, right? Like
Real
what
talk,
happened? Real talk.
not boosting talk, of course.
Exactly,
Boosting
yeah.
talk. Yeah.
With their friends, with the other men friends, right? And this is new for me. It's like, because in my mind, I will be the, stereotype woman. I will say, I think men talk more, but you're saying no, they brag more, but they don't really go into things that are, really matter about their
Yeah,
sexuality.
yeah.
Yeah.
It feels private.
It feels private.
It is
Okay.
private from the couple, private from the person. And
Right.
I met some couples who, then the men, when they hear their wife talks about their sex life with their neighbor,
Oh,
they get very angry because it's breaching the safety of the cycle. Then of course we know that when there is danger in the relationship, it's important to breach the cycle,
yes.
of course. But when for intimacy, sometimes the intimacy is then broken. When I kiss you like this, and when I cry sometimes in bed, and you tell that to our neighbor, then I will not have sex with you anymore because it's something in between us.
Yeah.
That's more a male thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
that's it.
But
That's
I don't know if there's science for that. But you
I
asked me
don't know
if I
either.
see if it's a
Yes,
pattern.
I ask you from, from the field, let's say, because you are
Yeah.
there in the sessions. So going, a bit back to our attachment lens, and of course this patterns in the attachment, and we call about withdrawal, like, or this, let's say, the more avoidant person, right? We know that if it's 60% of the men that are more withdrawn in the relationship, that means, just to, make it more explicit for the people that listen to us, that what does it mean is like, maybe this person will tend to shut down, to avoid conflicts, maybe sometimes to freeze in the middle of a highly escalated conflict. But if we could step inside for a moment, inside of this person, that 60% tends to be male, but you said this doesn't matter. But it's very curious for the pursuer, for the anxious person. What is going on? I'm trying to have a conversation, and you shut down. You don't have words anymore. So if we step inside, what do you think we would find there, inside of the body and the mind of a more withdrawn person?
Being female or male. That's being
Being female or male,
or
yes,
male.
yes.
Yeah. I from experience that we both know we will find a lot of anxiety inside. And based on the fear of not being good enough. You played it very nicely when you said, "What is going inside?"
Yeah,
Then
I don't understand.
this tone of voice already for a person in a withdrawn position signals, again, it's not good enough. So these persons or they lose their words. They really go blind. They freeze inside too. They don't know. Because they try to find the right answer to appease you. What should I say to you? And on the other side, also, it could be they have often too many ideas in their mind. And then they say feelings and ideas, say, which one should I choose in this situation? What is there to share? Because my main goal is that we are okay. Yeah. So it's very difficult to talk. And sometimes some people have a history. Yeah, we meet people who became in this position, but they are in touch with their emotions in their time. But in this relationship, they start to shut up because the other one is too loud for them or too pushing for them, which is relative. But you also have people who, in both positions, I think, who are not so well in touch with their emotions. So the people in the pursuing position, they hide behind the emotions by throwing them outside. Yeah. Yeah, you are, what is happening with you? What is this? What goes? So the energy is outside, but they are not in touch with their emotions inside.
That is interesting, right? Because we always believe, or we say maybe it's a stereotype, pursuers are more in touch with their emotions and withdrawn, which, just for the people that maybe they didn't read anything about attachment, we can identify withdrawals with the person that is more or less verbal or more withdrawn, that says, let's not fight, right? But you're saying, no, they are both not so much in touch with
in conflict, they
emotions.
both are not so much in touch with the emotions, because the one is throwing the emotion outside, and they might feel their anger or their pain, but they don't feel their fear, and they don't feel their loneliness, and they don't feel their need. No, it's just panic. You have to react immediately. So part of it is closed off. It's both ways of closing off, but it's not. That's why I made it my goal to teach people to speak of the person in the pursuing position, and I never speak about the pursuer or the withdrawer, because I'm fundamentally think we need to keep the systemic idea. It's an answer in a relationship to an answer of another person. But then again, I agree that some people are more structural, distant from their emotions, and more structural in need of contact. Yeah, but in a relationship, it only, to me, I think the one who is the more anxious and shows that the most will influence the relationship. So if we change partners and we find somebody who is more demanding than we will become the withdrawn person. Yeah,
Right.
so
Right. So it's
it's
flexible,
nuance, you know. Simona, I want
That's good.
nuance.
That's good, and it's educational for everybody that listen to you. And what I as well paid attention to what you said is that let's say the one in more withdrawn position feels anxiety inside and wants to respond, because sometimes I would say I'm sometimes more in the pursuer position. So
Really?
somebody like me would interpret as you don't want or you don't feel anything for me. That's why you don't talk to me. But you're saying, no, there is a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
There is interest, but just either there is no idea in that moment or too many ideas.
Yeah. And too many information, and not able to choose, because the choosing goes not what do I really feel? Because to say that to your partner, you need to be in a really safe relationship. To say, yeah, sometimes I'm doubting and I don't know and I'm scared, but other moments I'm, and these are, to tell you that, I have to trust you completely. And when we're stuck, we come to therapy, we don't trust each other. So then we cannot speak because there is this lack of fundamental trust that if I show how complex I am, you probably will not like me anymore. Yeah, and for both of them, for both of them. That's
Okay. Yeah, that's important sometimes to have in mind. Maybe it's not a lack of interest. It's like,
but
I don't know.
And it's from, I know the position of the pursuing my couple more also. So I know that I then start to think, you don't want to. That's what I think. The person in the pursuing position, that's not what the person in the withdrawn position thinks, I don't want to. The person in the withdrawn position, that's what we try to understand. She or he, like my wife would think, he's so nervous and he's so angry, and how can I calm him down? That's what she is thinking. Yeah. Or she thinks, what did I do wrong? Or she goes back to her childhood where it was not always so pleasant. And she freezes. Yeah, that's what's happening. But not wanting to answer is, I don't feel safe to answer. And you Simona, you know us, the people in the pursuing position. When the person in the withdrawn position answers, what will happen? We will have another question.
Exactly. Or it's not good enough.
No, it's not good.
Or it's not, oh, this is what you want to say. No, I wanted another response. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're so vague. Can you precise? The stress goes up because they try to avoid to have a fight. So by being a little bit, and then we need security and precise answers. So we start pushing again. So the cycle goes on.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Well, we know the position of the pursuing better from inside. But you see, that's nice. You're a woman and I'm a man. I know the pursuing position in my couple better, and you know the pursuing position better in your couple, and you're a woman. So that's why this idea, men are, women are, is so. I should, in my mind, I don't dare to say, but I will say it out loud. It's just utterly stupid. Yeah. It does not exist. It's the same error that we psychologists and psychiatrists and psychotherapists make, and they say, you are in a bad mood because you're depressed. That is turning things upside down. No, it's the only direction that is scientifically correct is because you are in a bad mood and you have suicidal ideas and you can't eat. That's why we call you depressed. The word is not a cause of anything. Men and women is a little bit different because we have a different body and there's a biology, so there is some difference, and especially around children. They grow in the woman's womb and not in the man's womb because he doesn't have a womb. So the relationship starts much earlier. So the responsibility feeling is more installed in women. It's also because of the biology. You talk to the child in your body changes, your body never becomes the same again sometimes afterwards. So you're reminded all the time of I gave life, and a man is the father, but he never gave life, So there's luckily now modern men in our country and educated men are closer to, also when there's a baby born too early in the hospital here, the fathers lie there also naked to have the baby, to have the bodily contact. They take you 4 hours, I 4 hours. That wouldn't be the case in 50 years ago. Yeah. So men are and women are also excludes the evolution of culture and time. Yeah,
Yes.
and that's another reason why I think it's not wise to speak like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
not wise, but we're still talking this way, and we try to, of course, to open the mind and to
well,
look, because actually I think what is frightening for us is those difference that we don't understand. So we tend to understand them through maybe there is an explanation because he's a man or a
yeah,
woman, but you're
yeah.
saying maybe there are other deeper explanation, more systemic. It's not just because you are man and woman.
More systemic and more cultural, but let's
Yeah.
be sex or gender inclusive. That's why there are still bodily biological differences. I will never have menopause that will trigger me and my emotions. So it happens. It's the reality. Yeah, yeah. So there is an influence, but if we talk through the division, to understand a division, we are doomed not to understand. Can I explain that again? If we start saying, let's understand and men and women, and then we already made a division, like language makes a division. So what we will stress is the differences. And we will forget the similarities. That's the same if we make the Belgians and the Dutch, or the Europeans and the Americans, or the Israelis and the Palestinians. The moment we make the difference of a group, we are stressing the name, we are stressing the difference. While for love, one of your questions could be the future, because I got your question beforehand, is what can we do to teach love? And I think let's start from the fact boys and baby girls are born with the capacity to love similar ways. That's the start.
Beautiful start, Lieven. Beautiful
Let's start. And so we never have to teach them to love.
Yeah.
We have to pay attention how we teach them not to love.
Right. And kind of to nurture this ability to love.
To nurture the ability, not to hinder it, not to say boys don't cry, not to say too much, you're a stupid kid, I don't like you, why did we ever have you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Lieven, okay, yeah. So, what about, because I heard you talking couple of times about systemic theory, which we are kind of both know, and we know that in systemic we look to the old transgenerational legacies that we have that are passed down through generations to the next, and even when people consciously try to be different from their parents, somehow I have clients that they reflect on, I promised myself not to be like my mother, father. And I see now when I'm 30, I promised myself when I was 15 that I would never do this because it hurt me. But I see myself now I'm 30 and I'm doing what I promised myself that I would never do. So the question would be, why do people sometimes repeat the very things that hurt them, and the things that they once promised themselves I would never do?
Yeah. Such a complicated question. And I thought we had this meeting tomorrow. I wanted to reread something that I wrote a long time ago, but I didn't. But first of all, there is patterns. It's a systemic thinking that we inherit, and patterns are the thing that connect our behavior in a process. Patterns inside our emotions work, patterns with others, patterns how we behave. with others in certain, where we need the others to behave in a certain way too. And that the deepest layer that I can think about patterns is that without patterns, our life would be impossible complicated. Our brain makes patterns and recognizes patterns so that we don't have to think every time and to invent every time what we do. So that most of our behavior is automated without thinking, from emotions automated, or maybe even deeper layers that we don't know where they are. So we feel something, we do something, we scan a situation, we read it, we do something. Luckily it's subconscious. Right? Not in the Freudian way of subconscious that then the analyst would know what is in the subconscious. I mean, not in the conscious mind. Luckily, most of the things we do are not in the conscious mind, otherwise we would go crazy. Sometimes I think that psychosis is just that. That for these people in psychosis, they have to think about what's happening in life for 7%, and a people who is not ill has to do it only for 5%. And that's too much information all the time. And to decide what shall I do, and to organize, and how do I understand. Most of the things, we enter a room, we understand. Poof, we know what we do. We know what we hear. If I have to think every time of who are you, what do you mean? No, we met each other a while ago, so we have some patterns. So the fundamentalist, why do we repeat patterns? Because patterns are the building blocks of our life. Without patterns, for instance, when I worked in psychiatry, very depressed persons, in the morning, they get up and they have to think, what shall I do today? How do I put on my clothes again? While people who are not in the depressive state, their mind goes thinking, what will I do today? Just before they wake already. You wake up, you do this, you do that, you do that. You never think about it. Then you go breakfast, you take your coffee, you start already thinking of your work. But when you're depressed, you have to say to yourself, I have to think of my work. Oh yes, I have to prepare my child for school. But when you're not depressed, it is in patterns. You wake up, you do the coffee, the child, you do bathroom, everything together, without consciously
it's more
think.
automatic, right? Like
Yeah.
And
that's the great advantage of patterns. Then what we all know that in how do I become my dad, I become my mother. The reason why we would repeat is because we learn by patterns. So we copy them. They are inscribed in us. In attachment, we can go to attachment later. And there's biology again. We have some temperament and some biological organization that is inherited from both our parents, which makes a unique combination of Simona or Lieven, but with parts of parents in it, the biology, how we react, how smart we are, how emotional we are, how healthy we are, so many influence. So there's also genetics. So then sometimes we repeat ourselves because we are the daughter of, and we find the same solutions in life than our mother and our father. But we also know that if you are aware of repeating, that a lot of people are successful in many domains when they say, I will not be like my mother. So why do we repeat some patterns when we again make that as absolute? Oh, we poor people, we cannot escape the patterns that we repeat. What is blinded is that we are so successful in not repeating certain patterns.
Oh, right.
right?
So
Because
like
then,
we look into what we repeat, but we forget what we are
yeah,
successful in not repeating.
because when we're successful, there's no stress about it, and we're happy. So it's background. It's. But when we have trouble not repeating something that we don't want to repeat, it becomes foreground. It becomes in our mind. Yeah, and so that's also a context I want to put around. Yeah. When we put, why are we sometimes repeating? Yes, we are sometimes repeating. A lot of times we can consciously avoid repeating it. Not completely, because there is the bodily, like my father had a temper, and my emotions are like a Tesla too. They can go from 0 to 100 in. That's how I have to accept my body works. But I am quite sure that I did not repeat with my children what my father behaved with us. Yeah? I'm much kinder, sweeter, much emotional, more listening, more open, etc., etc. So many successful. I feel very successful in not repeating. But sometimes I say, fuck. I have this same bodily reaction, and and there's also emotionally. Can I go on? Because of course, when you repeat, like when people are lived in a violent environment, and a lot of these men that I then meet later when they were boys and they saw violence from the man, the father to the mother or to the children, said to themselves, I will not be like that. And then it's very painful when they feel 50 years later, oh, when I'm stressed enough, the pattern works. I was then the child, and I was afraid with this man that I could not exist. And now when my wife gives me a signal that I cannot exist or that I feel ashamed by her, then my anger to my father comes out now, and I become my father if I don't want to become my father. Yes, it's sometimes very hard work to find what triggers you, and it will always go. The method to how it goes is not just copying, but it's mostly because you have been in the receiving position, you have pain inside, you have a defense to that pain. And when then later on something resembles that, gives you that pain again, now that you're stronger and bigger, then you say, I will not be humiliated again. Puff. Yeah. And it's the child in the man that explodes to the family. Yeah. So that's how we learn things about self. If you're a woman or I cannot have emotions. I meet so many people who have become therapists. Then they tell me after a year of supervision, I was the strange duck in the family. I was always so emotional. And that's an advantage to become an emotional focused therapist. Yeah. They say, I feel so home here. Here my emotions are welcome. At home they were never welcome. So that's also context. So they learn to suppress. Then when they work with clients, it's sometimes difficult to go into the deep emotions with the clients because then you don't suppress, and etc. So it's the hurt, it's the biology, it's also the hurt and the defense that is built, that then rebuilds the pattern, because it puts then the other person in the same position that you were, who reacts then like you, and then
Yeah.
it goes
So
on.
that's not just about being aware. Sometimes, as you said, biology and the hurt and the personal history can be so big that in the moment that we are triggered and it's so known, this feeling, you can see yourself doing what you kind of promised yourself not doing.
Yeah.
And then how do we go out from those patterns, right? Like, what do we need to be able to go out from the patterns that we don't like, that we say, oh, I want to go out from that. Of course, we are successful in some, but we are unsuccessful in some of them.
Yes, and we will not be 100% successful ever.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because that would
Okay.
mean that we are completely makeable, that we can form ourselves, and that is part of the element what could prolong the problem, because then you don't accept your weakness. Yeah, it's post, I have this possibility to be triggered. It's a first, it's a necessity. I'm not perfect. We need, but to be able to do that, you need somebody who looks at you with loving eyes. Yes, I know it's difficult. I can imagine. And from that acceptance, with repetition and with help of others and with psychotherapy and with finding the cues that take you without you knowing, we could change it, yeah. But some of it will be lifelong work. And the interesting thing of this pattern thing over generation is that you can think, but if I succeed in my life of doing half the work, then my children only have to do the rest of the half of the work. If they do half the work, the grandchildren have to do a quarter of the work. And then the great-grandchildren 1/8 of the work. So to be successful over generations it is also an idea that I would give. Yeah, if we are better, if you look back and like I said, I am happy with myself that I will look back, even if I failed to be 100% different, I succeeded in making a step forward. So when I look at my children and how patient they are with their children, I think, oh my God, how is this possible? But I have to think it's partly because we did half of the work that they can continue to do the work. Yeah. So that's over the generations. If we inherit patterns by biology and by learning, then we also inherit positive patterns. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. That's hopeful.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that's, and if biology is for humans, that they are born needy of another human and born needy of care, and that we see a baby and we want to give care and we want to give presence, the biology will help us, because the rest is what will make it more difficult, like having no work and a war and poorness and fights, and that makes it more difficult to not disturb this. But it's impossible not to disturb. Yeah, there's no human being on the planet, not in the happiest country in the world, grows up without hurts. It's with your daughter, it's impossible. You sometimes have a fight. Yes, and sometimes you hurt each other, and she hurts you and you hurt her, and you don't want to. But you're wonderful together. I can say to all the listeners, it's like the most wonderful mother-daughter combination you ever met. Yeah, but even there will be hurts in the love relationship.
Yeah. And thank you. And just, like again, highlighting what you said, because you're saying so beautifully, is that sometimes we will not break all the negative patterns, but it's a work in progress for all the life. And I think this thought, it's reassuring that let's try to do our best, by being aware and asking for help, like therapy. And if we are in luck, we have a person that looks at us in a different, warmer way, and that will help us to step out from the pattern. And then it will be as well a generational work. So maybe our children will do better and our grandchildren will do even better. So, that's a bit reassuring, I would say. Let's not stress ourselves. Let's be a total different person right now in the present, because that's very stressful.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we move on, Lieven, because, we can talk a lot and I still have some questions. And
Oh,
literature on identity suggests that people make sense of their lives through what psychologists call personal narrative, meaning telling stories, right? Narratives, telling stories and about our life. And as we grow older, we often reinterpret the past in order to understand who we are and who we have become. So, after a lifetime of working with people and being with people, how has the story that you tell to yourself changed, if it did change?
yeah.
The story
The,
of
the,
Lieven.
the story of who I am.
Yes.
Yeah. It of course changes because you live every day and there's new chapters added. But that's mostly not what is meant by it. So I thought of it, but I thought I wrote something down to why do people want to repeat things? Can I look?
Yes, of course. For sure, they are wise words if you write it down.
As a professional, I can say that I changed, and that what goes up and down is when I hear a new narrative about psychotherapy, I get enthusiastic and I believe it, and then afterwards I believe it less, and then I hear another narrative and I believe it, and then I believe it less, and what I know that when I did my internship as a psychologist, we had to work a year in a psychiatric hospital and I had to write a report about me. I then wrote this very strange word because I thought, because I read then Bandler and Grinder, the magic of something, the NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and I wrote something about human engineering. Luckily, I was wrong. Yeah? As a young psychologist, what they tell you, you can help people and this and that. I thought we could change people at will, almost. And I don't believe that anymore. I think we have to be modest. And that sometimes wonders seem to happen, and sometimes little changes happen. And sometimes it's a long time work, and sometimes it's fantastic what happens to people. So I became more modest. The EFT was helpful in giving a map to keep my enthusiasm going, that it is possible to help people to have a roadmap, to know where we go, and the introduction of emotions as a powerful influencer of our behavior, and to try to work with it. But they still remain unpredictable. Yeah. And human beings are, but that is beautiful because we meet people and we can still be amazed what they do and they can say, and what lives in them. Once they feel safe, they flower, yeah, and they become richer. And it was already inside, so we didn't make it. It's growth. It starts from inside. About myself.
About yourself, and maybe about yourself as a partner in such a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Did the story change, or the narrative?
Of course, that I have to be careful that that when you are a lucky bastard like I am, yeah, you start to think that it's normal. So I have to tell myself at several occasions that when I see the couples I work with, and so they're lovely people, and they have so much trouble with each other, and they become so ugly, and then I say, I could be that person too, but I'm lucky, because the context and the relationship I have don't produce this kind of ugliness too much or too often. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. Wow, I say, you have to be lucky. I'm lucky. I also, when I see with friends, most of the thing, my story, I was younger. The balance of what we can achieve and the balance of luck. Now my cup of coffee is more coffee and milk. In the beginning, which is normal for a young person, that you think, I will make the change in the world, I will achieve this, I will, that's normal that we have all this energy biologically, otherwise we would never start a career or a marriage or a child, or you have to be stupid, to say, we will do it. And I still think that consciously making wise choices is important. I still try to be wise. I read a lot and I try to understand how the world is so I can make good choices. But the part of luck has grown. If I rewrite a story of life, I say, well, look, like we had some almost story last fall that Mika would have cancer. And for a month she had cancer. And then after enough CT scans, she did not have cancer. But that month, and you think, oh, my life would completely change. And that's also luck. And the kids are healthy and the grandchildren are healthy and nobody has an accident. And I have friends who have kids that are not so healthy or are in trouble. And then even the total family changes until the grandparents. So I rewrite a story that the I as the influencer of the world is still there. I think it's important, but it's more modest, and I have to accept that life in existence is, and the meaning of life is something we have to appreciate if we are lucky, and say thank you to whatever circumstances. Yeah.
So I hear you are more aware that you are grateful. Maybe you were grateful before, but now I see it's close to you, this grateful feeling of, I have all these things in my life. Some of them you could influence, but like you said, some of them it happens and it's good that, your family is healthy and you are more aware of this, to be grateful.
I'm more aware of gratefulness, and but it has been an idea in my story all the time also, like, this thing you play with little kids when they want something from you. You keep it in your hand and you say, what is the magic word? And then they say, please, mommy. And then you give it and then you say, what is the magic word now? Thank you. I have always found that in the education of my kids and the grandchildren, I think that's like so essential that kids don't, that's also a counter weight to these young mothers having to be present all the time for the baby. The baby cries, I have to go. Oh, no frustration. Is that, no, we show them, thank you that you're born, and thank you that I'm here, and please, here I am, I come to you, and now, sorry, I'm not capable, and so that the kid could, when we're born, we all think we're l'ombelico del mondo, we're the center of the planet, of the universe, and everything is there for us. And to grow up as an adult, we have to learn everything is not there for us. We're just a grain of sand somewhere in the universe. And if we want to, we have to say, thank you, you're paying attention to me, and thank you, And so I try to teach that to my children, because so this thankfulness idea has been there, and I have to thank then the depressed patients that I worked with, because what I then read somewhere 30 years ago, that people who are more grateful in life have a much lower chance of becoming depressed. I think it's logical, because every time you say, like, now the sun is shining, I'm grateful that the sun is shining. So I become happy because the sun is shining. Because I say, I have nothing to do with it. Thank you for this gift, sun. Yeah. So when you're depressed, you have to work for everything, you know. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for your question. Thank you for the apple. Thank you for everything. So gratefulness becomes bigger, but it's been part of my narrative of what my central belief in family life is. Yeah.
Beautiful. So this is a valuable lesson, right? Like how, you know, you had it all the time, but it changed a bit in time. This gratefulness that could help us actually
Yeah.
in real, you know, just helps us being more aware of what is good around us, and that sometimes we are luckier than others, and maybe
And
that's
you say thank you. Yeah. Thank you for being here. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for, how did you sleep? Thank you for asking. You know, here in this couple also, the word thank you is probably pronounced 100 times in both directions every day. Yeah.
nice. But sometimes
Yeah.
we are too fast
Yeah. But you
in
can
this
smile.
behavior.
You can smile. You can still smile. And if you realize, thank you for getting the kid. Thank you for answering a call. Thank you. You know, it's also just on a way of being influential in the world. If you realize that saying thank you is more influent than why didn't you answer? Why did you forget that? If you say thank you for not forgetting and not taking it for granted, you have more influence than when you complain. So it's saying thank you that is influential. You can make your own world better by being grateful. Also to have a little manipulative element in it. Yeah.
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 I mean, thank you, Lieven, for this piece of advice, right? That we can just put it in practice, because many times
Right.
people are asking themselves, what can I do from today, tomorrow, right? Like not staying in therapy. And of course, when we need to do the work in therapy, we do it. But this is a free piece of advice that is saying, what about not saying, why didn't you do that? And then just, you know, noticing when somebody is doing this for you and saying
Yes.
thank
I
you.
say thank you.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah,
so kind. Oh, so nice. Oh, yeah, lovely. There's so many things. There was this terrible child psychiatrist, Dr. Spock, in the States that influenced all generations in the world. I think that it was dangerous to praise children. You know, my parents' generation thought like that. Maybe your parents' generation thought it's like that. I think I learned from you that Romanian teachers used to think that you can only criticize negatively. You cannot say well done, well done. So it's all this strange idea that we can form the world by controlling it. And then, of course, I think thank you and you're welcome and fantastic and well done. And really, the real, not American style, you know, like, oh, you're so wonderful. We as Europeans, we don't believe that because it's too over the top. But that it can have influence, but we still have to accept that the world will be crazy. The world will be crazy and there will be difficult times and the sunshine is not always there every time, every day. Yeah. But I think, yeah, I have another piece of advice that I would like to offer.
which are very good because we love advices, right? I mean, you know, like if possible to be instant with water.
Yeah, you know, 10 years ago, I wrote a book about love. And I have some family of neighbors or something. And I wrote the advice that every time you meet a person, you say hi. And every time you say you go away, you say I go away. So when you go away in a relationship or in a couple, don't disappear, never, to your garage box or to your kitchen or to your office or to school. Always say, darling, I'm gone. So you make contact when you leave, because that's about attachment. I think of you while I'm going. And then when you come home, you say, darling, I'm here. Which does not mean that she or he is blind, he does not see you. No, it's you say I'm here to do the first thing that when you come in contact again is making contact. And you say something about yourself, I'm here. Ah, nice. The other one will smile at you, be sure. Yeah, they will smile. and when you leave, you say, hello, darling, I'm gone, and you give a kiss. So the last, that I took it from my grandmother, I think, but I ascribed things on my grandmother that she probably didn't do, so I imagined it, I suppose. But I have this strong message in my mind. I can even go out and then decide I go walking and then say, I come back home. I do that. I'm so stupid like that. I come back home, I say, Mika, I'm gone. And I want to give her a kiss. Because the idea is, what if a meteor falls on my head? Then at least the last thing I did was a kiss. Yeah. So that's the idea. When you go, you always say, darling, I'm gone. So then whenever you die, the last thing you will have done will be something connecting. So I think that will be a nice advice for I hope people take that. Some people, if 3 or 4 people in Romania take it, I'm happy.
Me too. Me too. Thank you, Lieven. That's a beautiful advice and so easy kind of to apply, because sometimes we're looking for very complicated advices that it's so complicated to really apply it in our day-by-day life, fast, full of activities. But hello, I'm going, give me a kiss, thank you, goodbye. That's something that can do the difference, right?
Yeah, which is also the same in the morning and in the evening when you wake up. Hello, you've been apart, so you say hello, and you ask the same question every day. How did you sleep?
Yeah.
And
connection, right?
You're right.
Connection.
You make a connection, and it's just a symbolic connection because the answer is okay, whoa,
Yeah.
and you whoa, but at least you checked in with each other, because sometimes you get the answer, no, I had a nasty dream. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you understand, okay, your face like this is not about me, but it's about a dream. Oh, that's easier. So now and then you get a real answer, but most of the days you say, okay.
Yeah.
But you still have
it's not about
contact.
the answer, right? It's about the connection.
It's not about the answer, it's about the connection. To have some rituals to make connections in departing and going, and where the content is mostly not important. The movement is important. I come to you, you come to me.
Nice, and I hope we can all apply it from today, guys.
I hope I was good enough for your podcast.
It was very good, Lieven. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. We take, all your knowledge, information, but as well, what I always appreciate is your warmth, and the personal advices. I think they are the one that we could apply, like more connection, less judgment, less pressure, right? And no matter if we are men or women, this I remember, we still all want the same, like more connection, to be more grateful for what we live. Thank you very much, Lieven, for accepting the invitation.
Love Talks
La masculin.
cu Simona Herb, un podcast susținut de
Coseli, pentru momente în care contează să fim împreună.
Lara Farm. Sănătatea nu se câștigă, se păstrează. Intră pe larafarm.ro. Farmacie online. Prețuiește-ți sănătatea.